Hey, welcome back to 0 to 100 Academy. Sorry for the long delay, but it feels good to be back in the house with something special and new for the 0 to 100 family. Starting off this haircut using our wall designers with the staggered blade. We're setting the perimeter of the haircut just to establish the length around the parietal ridge using the Speedo guard number 0. Now that we've established the length, going back in to set up our guideline on the client's head for a medium skin fade with our wall designers with the staggered blade closed. We're now skinning out our client's head with our ANDIS T-Edger blade. Notice that the blade, the cutting blade, is actually tilted down towards the client's head, not facing me, but this ensures that every stroke is going to be a nice, smooth, even stroke on the client's head. This guideline, guys, is establishing your first transition guideline, letting you know this is where your haircut's actually going to begin. It's transitioning to a fade, a skin tight taper, a high and tight. That's all this next guideline is, just letting you know this is where my transition is going to begin. I want to clarify something for the people who are struggling after they establish their first initial guideline. We know that the purpose of this guideline is to help us or know where our first transition is going to begin, but we're also creating space. Sometimes students have problems with creating space, and we say, okay, we're going to go up about 1/4 to 1/2 inch, right? But if you don't give yourself enough space to create the transition, when it comes time for you to clear that line of demarcation that you have in there, a lot of times students become frustrated. Sometimes people who have been cutting hair a long time become frustrated, but give yourself enough room to start that transition. One of the reasons that we're using the ANDIS full shaver in the beginning instead of the end is we want this canvas to be as clean as possible. One of the things that hinders you when you're learning how to fade or transition from tapers is knowing each transition has to be very clean, so you can train your eye to know what you're looking for. Okay, we have established our first initial guideline. We've established where our first transition was going to actually take place. We've used our full shaver. Now I'm coming back with the Master ANDIS, and what I'm doing, if you pay close attention, we use the full shaver. You really can't see any hard lines of demarcation, because on the other side of that first transition line is what I like to call the it factor. We set it up, now we're clearing it. On the other side of clearing it through the transition, that is where your haircut begins to merge. Once your haircut begins to merge through opening and closing and changing the angle of the clipper, that is when we first start to see our blend come together. Remember when I mentioned to you about the it factor, once you set it up, you've cleared it, you've merged it, now you're blending it. Once your haircut is blended, now you can say the haircut is faded. Remember, as I stated earlier, give yourself enough room to create enough space for that first transition. What you're going to actually see by giving yourself enough space is that haircut, and your eyes are going to see things totally different. Notice after we set that transition in, we worked from left to right or right to left, and we're completing the haircut as we transition through the haircut. Remember, if you do not give yourself enough space to create room in that first transition, you will compromise the haircut. What do you mean by that? 0 to 100. You will compromise the haircut. You're either going to go too high. You're actually going to close it where it should be open. And once you get frustrated inside of the haircut, it's almost like being in a basketball game, being down by 50, and there's 2 minutes left on the clock. While you're cutting your client's hair, if your client has a spot on his head to where there may be a crease in the client's skin, simply pull the skin up and create space where you can maximize your blades. Now that the fade is complete, simply addressing my client's cowlicks with some clipper over comb, and we're just maneuvering our way around the client's head. This client actually has several cowlicks, but one of the things that I like to say about cowlicks, it's like a good chess game. You have to be very careful and think about your next move. Remember, as you're using clipper over comb, don't lock yourself in a box trying to make yourself feel like everything you do with the comb has to be horizontal. You may need to use some diagonals or some verticals as you transition around the client's head. Remember, think outside of the box. You, as the barber or cosmetologist, when you're using clipper over comb, if it does not make you feel free, change your clipper angle or your comb angle. My client has very thick hair, so I'm just coming back to use the texturizing shears, just to remove some of the bulk to make it more manageable for my client. My client wants an edge up in the front, so back again using my wall designers with the staggered blade, simply using my flat top comb to hold those hairs out of the way, and using the Speedo guard number 0 to smooth those hairs out of the way to get ready for this design line in the front. Coming back with my Babyliss FX clippers. These are great clippers. Still learning how to get comfortable with these. They're a little different to hold in my hand, but for the edge up, I choose to start in the center and work either right to left, always turning my client at an angle to see my client's entire forehead. When you're coming back to begin that box on your client's design line, I'm right-handed, so I use my left thumb to pull in the opposite direction to make the skin a little tighter. When I'm beginning that C-cup, I like to tell the students, don't use the whole blade. Start that C-cup off maybe with half of the blade, depending on how big that client C is actually going to be. Starting my box on the opposite side of the client's head. Notice when I come in to start this C off, I'm using half of the blade like we mentioned on the other side. The reason you want to use half of the blade is because if you use all of the blade, depending on the client's C size, you may end up squaring that C and compromise the haircut. Now that we've transitioned back to the client's head, using finger over shears, doing a little bit of point cutting to add some texture, and we also chose at this time to use a traveling guide on my client. Now we've begun the styling process. I've added some gel to my client's hair. Now I'm going to come in with the blow dryer to add a little volume so we can begin to finish this haircut. Coming back with the razor just for a little detail work on my client to make it a little more precise and clean. If you're just now tuning in for the first time, thank you for watching this video tonight, presented by 0 to 100 Academy. At this time, we would appreciate it if you would like our channel and subscribe. See you soon.